this practice that we are doing here is a way to divine consciousness. It's one way of talking about it. There are many ways to get there, but this is a particularly powerful way to do it, and it's really the only one I know, so it's the only one I can talk about. But many different traditions talk about divine consciousness in different ways. You can talk about in Christianity, we talk about Christ consciousness. In Buddhism, we talk about Buddha consciousness. And in the Tantric tradition, which this practice is a part of, it's called by many, many different names. You know, it's called Shiva, it's called the ultimate, it's called God sometimes, it's called the goddess, Bhairava, it's called the ultimate, the absolute, many, many different names for it. But there is, of course, only one consciousness. And this is the ground of our being. The whole idea is that there's a fundamental reality out of which all this manifestation springs. I mean, there can be a million other universes in addition to this one, as far as we know. We have no idea. Even though science is trying to, cosmology and so on is looking into the Big Bang and trying to, make up some idea about what's behind all of it. We really don't know. And I don't think we will ever know. We can know it, though, in the sense of recognizing in ourselves, when we turn our attention inward, we can feel that which lies beyond this ego identity. We can feel a kind of stillness, and there's a kind of power there, there's kind of a vibration there. And if we postulate, we can say, well, that must be the nature of the universe. That must be the nature of reality. And this is what these yogis who have practiced practiced many, many centuries ago and through the centuries have arrived at through their own inner work. They discover that there is that deeper reality. And it's a way of tuning into that deeper consciousness by turning awareness back upon itself. You're looking within to find it. You will never find it out there, even though many people think that's where they will find it. They run on pilgrimages and they do this and they do that, but in the end, you end up having to look in here, because that's where it is. So some of these words, dynamic stillness, I like that word very much because it describes the Shiva aspect, which is stillness. It's the masculine aspect. It's totally full of potential. Anything can happen anytime, anywhere. It comes from beyond time and space. It vibrates and becomes whatever it wants to become. And it is the source behind our being here. And this we can feel in ourselves when we go deeper than our ego identity. There's nothing wrong with ego or ego identity. We have to have that. We don't want it to be our master. And do you feel sometimes that you are kind of on automatic? That you have certain reactions and that you have certain desires and things you want to control and all of that? But this is the ego. And it's okay. But isn't it even more okay, nicer, to not always have to be subject to that? And this is what the practice is. I remember last time I was here, you said, well, when I'm here, my ego is not operative. But tomorrow I'm back to work and there I see the ego again. This is natural. It has to be that way. Gradually though, we can get to the point where we have this ability to go deeper than the ego, be operative, even when we are using the ego. And then you can be two or more places at the same time. This is possible. But it's also natural that the ego, we spend all these years developing our ego identity to be successful in the world, to function in society. All of this is good and natural. But the difficulty is that it sets up all these natural habits in us that when we suddenly say, oh, I want to go deep within myself, it's not that easy to do that. I mean, this basic consciousness that we are is so pure and simple, it has no problems. And you can think of it as, when you go to sleep, where do you go? Well, you go into that consciousness. It's very simple. And we say, you fall asleep. Well, as you lie down, I mean, if you've had a very, very, let's call it ego-filled day, or difficult day, or filled with lots of thoughts and worries and tensions and stress and so on, when you lie down, what happens? You want to go to sleep. Not so easy, is it? You have to really be relaxed first. And you have to be able to feel yourself letting go of your thoughts. And if you fight with your thoughts, it gets worse. But if you relax and let your thoughts go, then you feel yourself, sinking down, and boom, you fall asleep. There's that instant where you are gone. And where do you go? You could think, well, you go back into the hands of God. And so much is happening while we are sleeping. Repairs, and body gets fixed, and our mind gets quieted down. All that happens. It's a great gift to be able to sleep. It's wonderful. And the thing that happens though is when we are awake, we lose touch with that healing energy, usually. So this training, this practice, any practice that really wants to awaken the awareness of that deep turiya state, that deep state of awareness, while we are awake, it takes training. We have to train ourselves to be able to be in touch with that deeper awareness while we are awake. This is what we're doing, nothing else. And the main aspects of the ego identity that blocks us, it's curious that all of these things that we spend so much time and energy, and the society, our teachers, our parents, everybody wants us to have a good life. And a good life is basically what they think is a good life. And very rarely do you get trained or included in your upbringing the idea that you can actually go inside and contact something that is deeper than your ego. This is not included very often. So, curiously enough, all the same things that it takes to have a strong ego identity, which is necessary, become the blockage to this deeper experience. And what is one of the main things that we do when we use our ego? Something that we do when the ego is predominant. Don't we always judge? I can't help but judging.
Projecting, right?
Projecting, judging.
Wanting.
Yeah, wanting, desire. And that's a form of judging. We judge automatically that we either want it or we don't want it. It's either good or bad. And this is a necessary thing. You know, when we're running around in the forest, trying to live from hunting, we need to be able to make quick decisions. Is it a tiger, or is it a, you know, am I the food, or is that, or is that my food? It's very useful. So judging is necessary in our ego and everyday experience, of course. But the minute we turn our attention inward, that sense of judging, that tendency to judge, gets in our way. It becomes a block. Because the only thing that can get us in touch with this deeper awareness is total openness and a total state of letting go. Because that's what that is. And it's, you know, it's this far away from us all the time, from we're born until we die. It's just that through all this training and through all of this focus on the ego, that wall gets a little thicker usually as we get older. So it's fortunate if we can start training this way when we are young. I would think, you know, it's wonderful if already children could get some understanding, or at least have parents that can show the example of being in touch with something deeper than the ego, because that's what kids look at. They look at what state is the parent in, and if the parent is very tense and always in the ego and always judging and always, of course, this is what the kid will pick up. So starting early is good, but starting late is also very good. It doesn't matter. So judgment, you know, is something that it takes a lot of training to be able to not automatically fall into, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And it doesn't mean that you have to think that judgment is bad. This is a subtle thing, you know?
Yeah.
Tantrism is you embrace it. Embrace your tendency to judge, but don't get stuck in it. Train yourself to be able to just open. And then the wisdom from deep within that state tells you what you need to know. But you have to gather the confidence and experience of doing that over time, so that you can eventually control. It's like a door that you open. I can be in a different state than my ego. I feel this dynamic stillness. I feel this deeper peace. You can feel that. And eventually, it's like a door opening, and you have a glimpse of it, and as you practice over time, you have more glimpses of it. But you can be also frustrated. You had some good glimpses of it, and then for years, you don't have it again. And you say, where did it go? Where did it go? What am I doing wrong? You're not doing anything wrong. It's just that it's not ready to, the door's not ready to open again. And suddenly it opens again. And so, oh wow, how fabulous. And you step in, maybe. And gradually, ultimately, you learn to not control it, but you learn to manage it. You learn what kind of state you have to be in order for that door to open. And then it just dawns on you. Oh, all I do is relax, focus on the chakras, open, feel that energy flow. And before I know it, the door is open and I'm in there. And you can do that even when you are, in Arjuna's case, on the battlefield, or when you are in a very difficult situation. And it's miraculous. People like to think of all these magical things as miraculous, but this is really, for me, the miracle of life. That you actually have the possibility of doing that. But you have to be willing to put yourself through the training and the transformation.